Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about Mockingbird Strikeout by Maria Lewis from Aconite Books. It is part of their Marvel Heroines series. In fact, it is the latest as of this recording. And in this book, we have Mockingbird, Bobby Morse, and she's going through a divorce from Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. And after some stuff, Shield sends her on a mission to England to search for a missing professor who was Bobby's mentor back in the day. And along the way, she teams up with a strike agent. Strike is like the British version of Shield. But Lance Hunter, let's make sure I have that name correct. Yes, Lance Hunter is the strike agent that she teams up with as they search for, let's see, is it going to tell me her name on the back? Maybe. All right, well, what are you going to do? It's Dr. Calvin, I believe. Anyway, it's someone who was working on recreating the super soldier serum back in the day. Things went wrong. There was a scandal, and so this Dr. Calvin, I'm just going to use that name whether it's right or not, took a position in Oxford, has gone missing. Bobby's on the case. So, right off the bat, the too long didn't watch. 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this book. Now, it's an out of continuity story, meaning it doesn't fit perfectly into Marvel comic book continuity, but it is based on Marvel Comics versus Marvel movies and TV shows. Mockingbird was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I believe Lance Hunter was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But that's nothing. That's not the real story. So this is comic book based, but not within continuity. There are differences. But the book starts right off the bat. We're in a conference room where Bobby and Clint are dividing up their property and with their lawyers. And then Bobby goes on a mission, a little like mission for S.H.I.E.L.D. There are plenty of guest stars in here, which always makes me happy. There's one character in here who I've been telling everyone that I can, which is like a couple people. I've tweeted it to Aconite that I want this character to have their own book. I think they're a perfect character for the Marvel Heroines line. But I get a little bit of the character in here. I'm being vague. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But I do like I like the way this is written. It's Bobby is the one telling the story, so it's in first person, and I like the voice that she has. And once things get going, she gets the assignment from Maria Hill to go to England. It's sort of to help her because, she's dealing with a divorce and everything. So it's like, hey, go to England. It'll kind of be like a vacation, but you also have to look for this missing person. And I like the espionage elements to it. We get some relatively detailed bits of espionage, trying to lose a tail or trying to tail somebody or breaking into this place or dealing with that thing. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was well done. Excuse me. There is a character in here, just a warning. There's a character in here who is not portrayed the same way that they are in the comics. It's a bit of a departure, at least from the way they're portrayed 98. I'm going to say 98% of the time. I'm not bothered by that. I was just happy to see this character in the book. But again, a warning to some people. I know some people like to stick to what's canon. Um, and again, I'm not going to tell you who it is. But they're in here. I was happy to see them in here, but they are not quite their comic book counterpart. So yeah, it's a fun adventure. Somebody on Twitter who saw that I was reading it said that they really liked that the Oxford stuff is very accurate, which is cool. I wouldn't know. I've never been there, but it's nice that we have that the accuracy and I guess the layout, the feel. I don't know of Oxford. We didn't get into a deep discussion of it on Twitter, but it seems that the author is either very familiar with Oxford or did their homework. Maria Lewis being the author. I've always liked Mockingbird as a character, not just because she was with Hawkeye. She's just a cool espionage agent / superhero. And I want to talk about the cameos and some of the other characters, but I don't want to give it away. So overall, very fun story. There's just one thing. One of the characters that's in here is not, I'm pretty sure, I don't recall there ever being a description of this particular character. And I think that if you don't know who it is, if you've never read the comics or seen this character anywhere, you would have no idea of their unique look. So that's the tiniest of things. I just think it would have been nice to have a description of this character for those who aren't familiar with them. Because you never know who might be reading this book. Even comic book fans don't know every comic book character. So it would have been nice to have that description. But other than that, it's a fun adventure. I like the dynamic between Bobby Morse and Lance Hunter. The fact that, excuse me, well, don't want to give things away. I'll say this again at the end of the video, but, we can talk spoilers down in the comments. So yeah, just a fun superhero spy adventure. There's the tiniest bit of like comic book type superhero shenanigans, whereas most of this could be any pulpy spy novel. Because Bobby Morse doesn't have any superpowers. Lance Hunter doesn't have any superpowers. There are superpowered people in here, but it's not those two. And so most of that action stays grounded. So 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like it's been a long day. I apologize. I feel like this review, not one of my best. But anyway, 4 out of 5 stars for Mockingbird Strikeout by Maria Lewis. I'd love to see her appear in another book. I'd love to see her write more for Aconite. I recommend it. A lot of fun. All right. I guess my question for this, and it's going to be more for the people that are comic book people, is maybe not, but it's going to be media tie-in based. When you're reading a media tie-in book, how close do you want them to be to the source material? I know a lot of people. I shouldn't say I know a lot of people. I've had complaints on some of my review videos about books that don't strictly adhere to what is considered canon. For me, if the changes aren't incredibly radical, I have no problem with it. first and foremost, as always, I want to read a well-written and entertaining story. Now, if in this book, I already threw it over there, got to reach for it. If in this book they gave Mockingbird literal wings coming out of her back, because her name's Mockingbird, she's going to have wings, that would bother me, because that's not the character of Mockingbird. But as long as it's, not a super radical departure, I don't mind. And with a lot of these books, the Aconite Marvel books, the ones that I have read, I have a ton, I haven't read them all, they're not generally within Marvel 616 comic book continuity. There are changes made. But again, I don't think I've noticed any major changes made, changes that are going to bother me. So, yeah, that's my answer to the question is it doesn't have to be slavishly devoted to canon. Don't get me started on canon. As long as it's not so far out there that the character's barely recognizable. But what about you? If you're reading media tie-ins, whether it's comic book novels, novels based on a movie property such as Alien or Predator or Star Wars or Star Trek, movie TV properties. I've read Warehouse 13, I think one novel, and Psych, and Burn Notice, things like that. And some are well written, some aren't. I didn't enjoy some of them because I just didn't like the way they were written or the story itself. But, yeah. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on this whatsoever? I know I've talked about media tie-in stuff before. Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please do all the usual YouTube stuff. I've completely lost my train of thought. Like, share, and subscribe. That's it. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is at Rona5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with K, ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I have for you this week. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. I'm a little loopy, and this hasn't been great, but until next time, read more books.